Okay? But they understood that
So what do you think we should do? Let's open a school today, and what would you say to your...
in school, I'm trapped. I apologize to the students. I'm sorry that your generation is going to have to live with permanent retention. That's the only way to avoid it. Otherwise, you're going to be apologizing for
but
what...
now it became the standard of care.
Yeah.
It became the standard of care.
But
It's unbelievable. People complain for minute changes that you have to begin everything from the beginning. They say, bend me, do it.
You don't think it's possible to educate the public one way or another?
I think it should be educated. It should be. I think this is the goal, that we have to educate through the association.
Right.
The association has to come up front and say, as you have skin changes and eye changes, as the hair changes, you have teeth changes.
Okay.
I believe in that. That's the thing that I'm saying. I'm teaching my patients.
It starts with a profession. I wrote a paper, which I'm sorry that I didn't revise for publication, which was called Speaking Honestly. And Thoreau was the editor of the Angle Orthodontist, and he loved the paper, and I got a nice letter from Illinois. I presented it at a meeting. What the paper said was, we haven't been honest with each other, starting with the American boards, who refuse to accept these cases with post-retention changes. And then you go to, how many people present these cases if you go to a meeting? You don't see you only see the trophy cases. You see the beautiful cases. So the profession has done it to itself.
I agree with you that it's our problem.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. It's our problem that we have to teach the population that you have it. We did our best, but we cannot stop nature from working. Nature is working.
Now they know that there are
devices.
Well,
so everybody,
that you can pull.
People come to me 5 years after they were debonded, and they come and they complained about doctors that they didn't put some fixed retention.
Yes.
So fixed retention in the upper and the lower became mandatory or standard of care. So what can we do? There is not many things that we can do unless we really go out and be honest.
Maybe the periodontist
we have to be honest
will
ourselves.
Because, maybe the periodontist, because they say there's more sessions from
orthodontics.
fixed retention.
Yeah.
That's what
so you're talking about the title of my paper, Speaking Honestly.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Speaking honestly is that we have to stop for a minute and say what orthodontics is all about.
Right.
And that's the honesty that we have to discuss.
I mean, we can do such miraculous things between surgery and now and the other big change, by the way, is skeletal anchorage. Fine, that's a nice change.
It's a nice change.
It's a nice change. So we can do unbelievable things, and to be hung up on slight rotations. And by the way, remember what we did in dental school to make a denture look natural?
Yes.
We used to rotate the teeth.
That's right. I say they shouldn't look like the horse teeth. Yes.
So this I fully agree with you with the honesty, and it comes from you're young and you know everything and you can retain it forever.
Yeah.
When you were young, but then 30 years in a row or 40 years, I don't know how many years you are in the profession.
Since 1960.
60, so it's 65 years.
Yeah.
65 years in the profession. So you don't look only on the children of your patient, you look also on now the grandchildren of your patient, and maybe no. I think it's a great chance to look backward and say, you know what? Maybe you have to change ourselves here.
Well, I try with the students, but it's a losing battle because they know that their neighbors are putting on permanent retainers.
That's right. The patients now
the patients asked it.
Yes.
Now they say, what about is the permanent retention is in the fee?
Some patients ask for Damon brackets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but this is the system that we don't have to blame. We have to blame the ourselves and the companies that manufacture the materials because they came directly. They overcame us. They passed us. They לעקוף. Like in the car, you bypass. They bypassed us. And they went directly to the patient and tell them, go to your dentist and ask him for Damon.
It's faster.
And
it's nicer. It's faster. It's
faster and cleaner, nicer, and no rubber bands. Let's stop for a minute here, and I want to ask you another question. Is there anything that you regret in the profession?
No.
Maybe what you said now is one of the things that you didn't work out.
My only regret is that I lost the battle of permanent retention.
I think it's a major issue.
Yeah. But in terms of compromise, you learn with time. Although the students here learn to compromise very early on, because we're getting some very difficult cases here at school. But we had to learn to compromise. But I have only a regret is that they renamed the journal. That they renamed it.
You mean about
Dental orthopedics.
Yes.
Dental orthopedics?
I went to a meeting in Graz, European Orthodontics Society, about 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And a young graduate from one of the Scandinavian programs that give PhDs, I forget which one it was, presented a paper called Dental Orthopedics, Fact or Fiction. That was his lecture. And he came down very heavily on the side of fiction. Now the audience is now kind of quiet, and it's finished, and the moderator says, any questions? No questions. The moderator says, I see Professor Graber in the audience, who never volunteered to come up to defend this position. Professor Graber. He couldn't avoid that, so he had to come on stage and try to defend changing the title of the journal. And what the guy did, he presented the last journal with the old name, and the journal with the first issue with the new name. And but poor Graber was befuddled. I mean, he really had a hard time trying to defend it. So if I ever had any doubts, plus his refusal to come to Israel during the first Gulf War, he turned down his invitation. I mean, he sent the tape. He sent the tape. You know who came? With a phone call, because he gave us like 10 days notice, Graber. Lenny Abrams came.
Lenny came, I remember.
Lenny came.
To Jerusalem, I remember it was like two seminars in the same day.
Also didn't come when it was some problems. Ackerman didn't come. The son of, I think.
Mark Ackerman, maybe.
So you speak about some orthopedics. What about functional appliances? You say it out. You have to say it out loud here because.
Yeah. My original objection was that the cases they were showing me were not consistently treated cases, which I have to tell you a true story. At my graduation, when Professor Brody was getting up in years, and they figured they better have an alumni organization while he's still alive. They invited the most famous graduates like Ricketts and Thoreau and all these wonderful, to present 15 consecutively treated cases. Now, Bob McGonigal was a classmate of Ricketts and Brezniak. That must have been quite a class that particular year.
Who?
Bob McGonigal. He was from Ohio, and he was a classmate and a personal friend of Ricketts. But they were together with Brezniak in the same class. They graduated at the same time. McGonigal had a great sense of humor. He said, and he was the moderator of the meeting. He said, I want my classmates and all of you to know that it took me 65 patients to find 15 consecutively treated patients.
10,000 patients to 515 consecutive patients.
But big surprise at that meeting, who had the nicest cases? A microbiologist named Milton Engel. Milton Engel, whose head was in a microscope on the 4th floor of the dental school. We never saw him except when Brody was sick, he would give the seminars. Had the nicest cases. So I always tell that to people like your replacement. I tell that story every time I get someone like Barkana, Edith. I get students like Edith. I tell them the story of Milton Engel. So you can have your head in a microscope, and you can still be a good clinical orthodontist.
Absolutely. That's I agree.
So about
functional appliances.
Functional appliances. So my objection was that I didn't see any consecutively treated cases. And I did try to understand the biology of what was happening. And I couldn't satisfy myself, even with Frankel's theories of stretching the periodontium, whatever he tried to explain it away as doing. And by the way, you know, his answer to the objections to the Frankel appliance in America, he wrote a letter to the editor. He said, "You have a problem with you American orthodontists? You're not orthopedists." And he was an orthopedist, Frankel.
But
really?
Graeber became very good friend with him. That's probably one of the reasons that he changed the names to AJOD.
Yeah. So I didn't understand the biology of it, and I didn't see the consistency or the particular. And then little by little, they said, well, in the beginning, they could treat adults. Age had nothing to do with it, right? That was their original theory. And then they modified it and said, well, we'd rather treat just growing children. But not all growing children, those with beautiful cephalometric patterns, those are the good ones. Well, what it came down to is that the good growers, whatever the hell you do, works. It's not because they're functional. So I've never been convinced. I'm not saying it doesn't work. If it works, headgear would have worked, rubber bands would have worked. And the only thing that wouldn't have worked is no treatment, because class 2s don't self-correct. So no, I don't think that. I think that they have. And by the way, all the recent articles show that the functionals are followed by a period of fixed appliance therapy.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah, they don't finish with a functional.
No, they don't.
There's too many limitations, so I can't get excited about functionals. This is Joe Keeling.
Did you ever try? Did you ever try the functional?
Yes. Only in a funny way. I was treating my cousin at Penn, and she was having some problems in retention. She was already in retention, and it was beginning to slip a little bit, and I put some kind of an inclined plane. I don't know what I did, and it got better. But no, I can't say that I have had really rich experience with functionals. No. And if they work, fine.
We'll go back to history.
Yeah.
What made you actually Aliyah?
That was the 1967 trip against my wishes. We came with another couple.
Which means that Debbie was the...
Yeah, Debbie always felt that every Jew should at least visit Israel.
Okay.
Not
This
live
was
here.
your first time coming to visit?
First time, 1967. Both families, non-Zionist.
Also for Debbie it was the first time coming to Israel?
Yeah.
1967?
Yeah.
After the war?
After the war.
Yeah.
December on a Hadassah 10-day trip. We came with another couple. The other couple was a lawyer. His father had been running guns for in New Jersey, he'd been running guns for the Haganah. So he had a background. Okay, and he was a Yale graduate, very, very bright young lawyer, and as close to anyone I knew who was... Zionism was not part of my family, of my friends. I was raised in a Gentile neighborhood environment. My father's best friends were Irish, and he was in South Philadelphia. He claims he lost his religion on Yom Kippur when he found a rabbi smoking and eating in the basement. So my father wanted to put Christmas lights on we had a tree that looked like a Christmas tree on a suburban home. My mother said, "You put lights on, I'm going to bring your mother to see them." He was afraid of his mother, so he never put lights on our Christmas tree. But we came on that trip, and that got me reading and self-educating myself. Although at the final meeting, I shocked everybody by saying, well, yeah, I shocked everybody, including my wife and our friends. I said, this is where we belong. And that's after 10 days.
Really?
Yeah, and the rest
Got
was...
the aura?
The rest was self-education. I started reading. Then I started working for the UJA, and then I started meeting people. And
you think it was a good
move?
decision?
What do you think you
goodness.
lost?
Yeah, no, I feel badly for my friends who didn't come. They, over the years, understood why we came, and they felt badly. Their kids were now too old, and we had a 16-year-old when we came, so it wasn't easy. We had for the two girls.
You have one child that's went back.
Well, what happened was he finished the American school because he came as in Herzliya. He came as a 10th grader, and he would have lost a year of school because we came with bar mitzvah Hebrew, and so he finished it, and then he took the Mechanah program.